Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Chief here, the professional problem solver, coming to you live for another episode of The Overcomers. Our guest today for this episode is Samuel Smith. I met this gentleman at Mastermind that we both were a part of a few years back, and I was just impressed with with the level of knowledge and wisdom he possesses, the way he communicates, the way he articulates. It's really, really impressive. So I really wanted to share Samuel with you. From being a 37-year-old alcoholic who just lost his supplement company and spent 2 weeks drunk, he's now 7 years sober with his life truly out and sharing the lessons he has learned that helped him to reach this point in his life now. Samuel came from a working class family in north of England, where he learned the value of hard work, getting his hands dirty, learning lessons along the way, and figuring out how to build what he wanted out of life with his own two hands. That's where his mantra, engineer your reality, comes into play. It's about rolling up your sleeves and building the life and business you want, piece by piece, brick by brick, with your own two hands. Through his podcast, The Small Business Surgeon, and his coaching group, The Clinic, he and his guests share the real life experiences and strategies that got them from there to here. It's about showing fellow entrepreneurs how to blend their business in the offline world with the opportunities of the online one, turning their dreams into solid working realities. His aim is to give folks the tools they need to not just survive in the business world, but to own it, making their mark and building the lives that they imagine. Without a further ado, I would like to invite Samuel to the stage. Welcome, Samuel.
My brother, thank you so much for the introduction, Velko. That was awesome, man. Thank you. I'm very happy to be here.
Thank you. Thank you for accepting my invite. I'm happy that you're here as well. And by tradition, I wanted to start with our first question. I believe that greatness, and just like greatness occurs, is passed on generations. And if you could please go back to your grandparents, the
Hmm.
parents of your father and the parents of your mother, and
Hmm.
share with me and the audience, what do you remember about them? Did they give you any good lessons? Did you learn anything through warnings? Maybe some bad lessons, some bad examples. Who were they? What were they into? And then share with us a little bit about your parents as well, and what was like to
Man, you gotta go me all the way back. It's funny you mentioned that because I was uh, one of those memories popped up on my phone, and it was a picture from 2000. 2001, right before I came to America, with me and my grandma and my grandpa in the garden, and it was the last picture we ever took together. So it's funny that we talk about them today. On my dad's side, my granddad and my great granddad and my dad were all painters. They were
Mm.
all like time served apprenticeship painters, and my dad was the first one to go and get a degree. He got a teaching degree. He went to a teacher training college, and he became a teacher, a high school teacher. He ended up as. But generationally, we were painters, and so there were weekends growing up from about 5, 6 years old when I went painting with my dad and with my granddad. And by the time I turned 16, 17, I was fully apprenticed, and I learned that from it was granddad's skills that great granddad had taught him. That who knows before how long ago had taught him that. So
Is there
um,
any specific tip that you learned, like go clockwise or up and down?
yeah, like I mean. Um, if you want a tip about painting, painting is 98% preparation and 2% putting the paint on the wall.
Mm.
And people never see the things you paint. They only see the things you miss. They only see the holes in the wall. They only see they call them holidays because like the paint took a holiday. But they only see those bits. And that's reflective of life too. And event, even when you're looking in on yourself, oftentimes you don't see all the good that you've done. You only see the 2 or 3 little failures you had that day. And so, there's lessons in the paintbrush. People only see the bits you miss. They only see the bad stuff. And so, no, I mean, I learned so much from my grandparents, my mom's parents, my grandfather on that side. He was a good businessman back in the 1950s and 60s. He had retired and unfortunately had a stroke before I was born, so I never knew the business side of him. I just got to see kind of what was achievable. He lived out probably 30 years after his stroke, and he lived it in comfort because of the time he'd spent building his business. And again, he was a generational businessman, and so there was a nest egg there, and there was money for him because of the effort that he'd made earlier on. And so, unfortunately, I didn't get any like major life lessons from that grandfather. He passed away when I was 15. But what I got from all of my grandparents was work ethic. Every single one of them, even up into her 80s. My grandmother on my dad's side was going out and cleaning the church once a week. She, go out and do community stuff once a week, just to stay active and just to keep doing things. And really, they're the ones that taught me, along with my parents, that we get up, we go to work, and we get the things we want from putting in the effort. And I mean, it wasn't I didn't have a bad childhood at all. Like, I just want to say I had a really great childhood. I did not realize that we were working class, poor, whatever you want to call it. Clothes came in bags with other people's name tags in, and you just kind of went through them and you grabbed the clothes you liked, and they were from the charity shop, and that's okay. But as a kid, you don't know. And so even though we were like proper poor growing up, I had a great childhood. Like it was great. We spent time working. I learned to work on cars when I was very young. I learned to work in the garden. I learned to paint. I learned to shoot. Like all the things that, kids nowadays would turn their nose up at, like digging in the yard and growing vegetables and going out and shooting like rabbits and stuff. And it's just like, you don't know you're poor. Like I had a great childhood, and the work ethic was put into me then. Like there wasn't a day off. There wasn't a sleep in bed till noon. There just wasn't. It was like, right, we've got a list of jobs to do today, and this is what we're getting done. From like we would chop firewood, but when we chopped firewood, it would be a full day, and they'd bring in wood on this loader, and you'd have like 5 men out there with a diesel table saw feeding wood and stacking wood. And, like it was a village effort, so like potato season, like from 12 years old, I would go and shovel potatoes in the potato sheds and get paid for that. And I had a milk route and a paper route, and I didn't feel poor at all. Like there was always work to do. Then turn 14 and you go washing dishes in restaurants because that's where the money's at. And my whole life it really all started with you wake up, like, and you go to work, and you get what you want from going to work. And if you want something, you got to go out and you got to kill it, and you got to bring it back, and then you got to cut it up and you got to eat it. And that's pretty much how I was raised.
It's good. It's good to learn from example and to apply that example at early age. It just helps you figuring things out in life a little bit better. That's why some rich kids, that we are usually a little jealous of while we're kids, that they have everything, actually ends up being a curse to them when real life hits later on in life. So that's why I like this quote. The worst thing you can do for your kids is, don't teach them about hard work and money and do everything for them, spoil them. So go ahead.
I just gonna say I learned bad habits too. Like it wasn't all like sunshine and rainbows. I learned bad habits. Like I learned how to sell stolen shit. Like because like somebody stole it and it needed selling. I didn't steal it. It just showed up. Like you're an
accessory.
I learned that every male role model I had in my life, with the exception of maybe one or two, was married but had a mistress. So I learned that was normal. Like it's not like the hard work, right? Everybody gets up and works hard, but then every working class male goes to the pub, and you spend time in the bar and you drink with your friends and you get drunk on a Friday and you get your paycheck and then you go day drinking on a Saturday. That was the culture I was raised in, you know. So even though I had all the positives of the work ethic and all the positives of the free range childhood, so to speak, going out in the woods and out in the garden and doing pretty much like whatever out of the Boyzone magazine you could imagine, starting fires and shooting and building fences and whatever it was, like, you still had the bad stuff too. You still had some bad habits that were ingrained in me from childhood that I had to break, you know.
That's a really good point you're bringing. Yeah, it's not all positive. Now, do you remember your first conscious moment when you realized you were alive? How old were you? When did you were just like the first moment of self-awareness, like, hey, I exist. Here I am. This is my first memory. First core
No,
memory.
I don't remember as a child going, oh shit, I exist. I don't remember doing that. I do remember. I do have a first core memory. I've got two of them. I can remember being very, very young, probably 2 years old, and we went to a what's it? Not elementary school. What's the one before that? Kindergarten. So we went to this daycare child thing, and it was held in a church. And I remember zooming up and down the path on this little red scooter that they had. And then I remember looking down, and the path was made of tombstones, which again was not uncommon to have grave markers leading into a church. And my earliest memory, earliest one I can latch onto, is zipping up and down on top of tombstones and wondering about dead people. that was when I was about 2, because I didn't know, like, but you know, you go to Sunday school and you go to playgroup in a church and you go outside and you're in a graveyard. So that was where we played, and you just don't realize that. So that was really one of my first memories. And the other one was going to my grandma's house. I couldn't have been, again, more than 2 or 3. And I can remember pans on the stove, and I can remember a little Christmas tree, a tiny little Christmas tree, like not even 18 inches tall, on the table in the corner. And it would have little chocolates on the Christmas tree. And I can remember like not being allowed a chocolate. So but I don't think I had a time when I realized that I am and that I exist up until my 40s, when I started to realize, you know, that we are all part of a collective conscious, and you know, we are souls inside of bodies, and all that stuff that they don't really, you know, teach you in school. That's when I had my first, oh wow, I am energy, like inside of a costume made of meat. I get to choose who I want to be. I get to portray whichever Sam I want to become. But yeah, I didn't ever have a conscious moment as a kid where I knew I was I knew I was something other than just a person, you know. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, talk a little bit about that. When did it click for you that you are so having a body experience, and what what caused you to realize that?
Mushrooms. Yeah.
Mm.
So at the beginning of COVID, if you remember, we didn't really quite know what to do with ourselves. And so I had 9 employees across 2 businesses, and we were all shut down. And I was like, well, what can we do? And so, you know, ended up spending a lot of time at the house watching Netflix. I going back through the memories, like I just saw one the other day, and they enforced a 2-week stay-at-home order. I'm like, 2 weeks? We would not accept that now. But
I didn't,
back
by
in
the way.
what?
I went straight to the office.
Every single, yeah, we did too. Like, so we went to the office for the first bit, but then I think it was around the end of the month, the county issued like stay home, nobody go out. Like, and so we did, because at first we were broadcasting, we say, hey, we're at the office, and with having a media company, I made it free. And if I scroll back through Facebook, there's scores of these videos where local business owners, they come in, they stand in front of a green screen, they say, here's what's going on with our business, we're open, we're closed, with this, with that. And then we edited it all and pushed it out for them. And we did all that for free because I had no money coming in. We lost hundreds of thousands of dollars of contracts in March that we were expecting to, like, we were committed to, and it just gone. And so what do you do? And you know, it was it was a very tricky time to navigate as a business owner. And but I had some spare time, and so hey, I want to learn something new. And amongst other things, one of the things that I ended up was watching Netflix documentaries on mushrooms and how the brain worked. And that was my first real exposure to an alternate way of thinking. When you're European and blue collar, especially in the 80s and 90s, religion was on the way out. The hippies were lambasted and made fun of, and like, you were basically taught that this is it, you're you, and you know, deal with it. And there was no avenue to accepting or believing any other like story about your existence. There was no access to television or internet talking about, you know, energy fields and talking about like, there was just none of it. Like you, and even if I wanted to learn that, I would have had to have gone to the library, know the book existed, like know the name of the book, look it up. There was just, this is when, if you wanted to learn karate, right, you had to go to the library and get a book on karate. There was no karate class, like there was no YouTube for it. And you know, we sound old and shit now, but like there was no way to, yeah, there was no way to learn about it.
The religion was sex, drugs, and alcohol.
Yeah,
and
and music,
rock and roll.
I did that. I partook, not in the drugs, and the sex. I had a steady girlfriend, so not ever in the rock and roll part of the sex. But I lived the rock and roll lifestyle as the alcoholic drummer. Like, you know, part of my MO was to try and outdrink John Bonham. There was a newspaper article about me, and I was about 17, and it was like, is this the next John Bonham inside of the article? And I took that and ran with it, and I'm like, all right, that's what I'm going to do. And yeah, I partook in, yeah, I never did the drugs as a kid. Never did the drugs, and never did the bed hopping stuff. I always had a steady girlfriend. And let me put it like this, right? It's 2:00 in the morning. You've just come off stage. You've packed up. You're covered in sweat. You're tired. You've had 6 beers. And now imagine the type of girl that's trying to come and talk to you. It's pretty easy not to run around with groupies. In fact, it's very easy not to run around with groupies. Like, people think it's like this rock and roll dream, but the type of women that are throwing themselves at you at 2:00 in the morning are the type of women that you want to run very far away from. You don't want anything to do with them. And so, like, I never did the whole sex, drugs, rock and roll thing. I did the alcohol, rock and roll. And it worked very, very well for me in my 20s. I mean, that's what I wanted to do. It was, I toured, I recorded, I had all kinds of fun. But it doesn't, like, you know, music doesn't pay what you think it pays. And at some point, you know, you kind of want a career. And I got married very young. I got married at 21. And so, like we wanted a house and stuff. And so drumming just kind of, it got pushed back, and it got made into a hobby. And you know, I never did become the next John Bonham. So
going back to the mushrooms, you got inspired by the documentary, and you decided to try.
Get off track. So yeah, I did. I tried, and nothing happened. And it got to the point where, you know, I'm 6'4" and 230 pounds, and there's a lot of me to make trip. And so it got to the point where, with books and with documentaries and sitting by myself, I finally got enough mushrooms so I could have a trip. And it's very difficult to talk about publicly because there's so much taboo behind it. But I saw things on that trip that, and the subsequent trips, that made me understand there was far more in the universe going on than what I was able to see in front of me with my eyes. I feel as though mushrooms taught me that people are doing religion wrong, and that all of religion is about love and about making things better for the people around you and positively influencing your environment so that the things in your environment positively influence you. I saw energy fields that I could reach out and touch and have energy streaming through my fingers. And I was told that it's my job to be a conduit of this energy and to channel it. And I could literally reach out and touch this energy and pull it into me, and I could feel it coming out of my chest in a solid beam of light. And I've been to where the Akashic records are kept, and I've walked around there, and you can know anything in the world. And the caveat is you can't take it with you. So what I saw was all these drawers, do you remember the old file drawers they used to have in courthouses that held little note cards? It was those, and you could pull them out, you could read the answer to any question you wanted. But the caveat was you had to put the card back and shut the drawer when you were done reading it, and you couldn't take that card with you when you left. And people think it's made up. People think, oh, you're just hallucinating, you're just tripping. But I believe that it allows you to receive frequencies that you can't quite see. You know, if the universe is an entire band of frequency, we can only perceive the bit between here and here. But if we could adjust our perception and perceive that much more, there's all kinds of things we can't see. And, you know, it's strange to talk about publicly, Velko, because like mushroom trips are a very private thing. But there's a lot of belief now that we actually live inside of a simulation, and it seems to be the most logical answer. But when you take mushrooms, you can see the gaps in the simulation is what it is. And for me, I've seen code. I've seen people's faces change into polygons, and it looks just like a simulation. And when you think that the only place my face exists is in the eyes of the person looking at it, then it starts getting a little bit weird, because I can't see my face, but you can't see your face. So where do we exist exactly? Like, where are we? If you shut your eyes out, like, what exists? We can only see matter. Like, matter only exists if it's observed. Like, how crazy is that? And yet you don't think about that when you're getting up and just going to work every day.
Yeah.
And so mushrooms allowed me to perceive the world around me in a different way. And they connected me to some sort of energy that I still feel very connected to today. A lot of people would call that God. You know, and again, the stigma of saying that now I'm a grown up, now I know what I want to do with my life. I mean, God has put me on this mission. God has told me to go do this. The stigma of saying that in a professional setting, like, are you crazy? Why would you bring God into something professional? But the direction that my life has taken over the last 4 years cannot be attributed to anything else. Like, there's nothing else. When I went and tripped, and when I saw that energy, and when I talked to God, and when I felt that love, and when I got the understanding that people have got religion wrong, the way religion's operated right now is very much for control. And
Yeah.
when people have the opportunity to be spiritual without as much religion, I think there's a whole different world there waiting for them to be explored. You know, when I went to church over Christmas, I went home, and everything in the Church of England, as the Catholics believe that God talks to the Pope, the Church of England believes that God talks to the monarch, the king, or the queen. And the entire doctrine and the entire service was based around, we love you, God. We do as you command. We love our king. We do as the king commands through you, God. And that to me felt like, hey, this is not cool. Like, this is not what God showed me when I took mushrooms. This is not what I experienced. I was not put here to be a slave to another man. I was not. Yeah, I was put here to lift people up, to channel positive energy, to spread that wherever I go, and to help and to serve and to solve and to make stuff better. I was not put here to kneel down to some king who like, look, you know, I'd probably get in trouble for saying this, but like, where's the law that says you can't cut his head off and take his crown and be king yourself? Like, because that's how it used to work. The only reason those guys are the kings is because of what their ancestors did with great violence.
That's what the French did.
You know, and again, I wouldn't really want to wear that hat, to be honest. I don't really fancy wearing a crown and being a king. I much prefer being the small business surgeon and solving people's problems and watching the lights go on in them and stuff. But when you think about it, the reason that family's in power, the reason these people, and it's from kings to bankers to everybody else that ascends to that level of power, it's done with violence. It's done by taking, and it's done by controlling. And that's what I think that organized religion became. It became that method of control and that method of implementing the king's commands. And so I don't really truck with organized religion, mate. It doesn't do much for me. I love the idea of it. I really love
Yeah.
the idea of everybody coming together and paying 10% of their income to the community to build a better community. Like, I'm 100% behind that. Like, I'd do it myself.
Yeah.
But when you look at the corruption and the power that organized religion has, it just turns me off from it completely. I think they're so far away from what God intended. I just can't do it, mate. Every church I've been in's had hypocritical leaders to the point where I just don't go to church anymore. But when you've got a pastor up there proclaiming family values and then having sex with 3 different members of the congregation, you're just like, well, that's not somebody I want to listen to. It's the same as being in a business group and you've got an investor on stage proclaiming to be the next coming of whoever, and he ends up being the next coming of Bernie Madoff and takes everybody's money.
Yeah.
They're just. Man, I don't know where I'm going with this, Velko. I just wish everyone could be a little bit cooler, And really, that's where mushrooms got me. They got me to understanding that the entire point of life, because none of it matters. You're going to be dead in 100 years anyway. Nobody's going to know who you were. And in all honesty, your kids are probably going to be dead too. And do you know what your great-great-grandfather did for a living? No, probably not. And so none of it's going to matter. So if none of it matters, why not just head out there to be the coolest, most loving, most impactful, most supportive member of the community you can be and live that life, because none of it matters,
Yeah. Well, similar to you, I grew up in Europe, and I've learned a lot of bad habits from the world. I started drinking at early age and just did all the bad things as a
What about the
teenager.
women thing, dude?
The
Was
women thing.
that a thing with you? Because like
Oh yeah.
everybody, like the European attitude to and even the mistresses were married, and then the mistress's husband would have another mistress, and I'm just like,
I didn't have longer relationship than like a month
mhm,
until I was 20, 22, 23. So I didn't know how to commit to a girlfriend. That's how
mhm,
bad it was. And then I had a really bad relationship, which gave me my daughter. But so I'm very grateful overall. And then I went back to extreme variety, if I can just put it lightly, and searching for some type of fulfillment through
mhm.
exploring different women. And now I'm happily married for the past 3 years. Actually, today is the anniversary of when she said yes to me.
Dude,
And
congratulations,
It's a
man!
it's a
Congratulations.
it's a real God's testimony, by the way we met.
How did
Uh,
you meet? Come on, let's get it
oh,
out.
it's too long. This is for you.
Well,
But,
I got the meeting your ideal woman story too, and I can tell you how I met mine if you want to share. If you don't, that's
sure, I'll
fine. But
share. Now I wanted to go back to the fact that I was raised without spiritual leadership. I didn't
mhm,
know who God was, and everybody was kind of pretending to believe in God, but then continue to be afraid of God, and when they need a quick fix, they would just drink. So that was the example I saw, and in my country, we start drinking pretty early. Like I was thinking about that last night. I was like, on my 17th birthday, I had 17 shots of vodka for my 17th birthday. I'm like, I don't even know if I can handle this right now.
mm,
So,
yeah.
and it
I
was
had I
during.
had
Go ahead.
I had 9 shots of tequila back to back when I was 13, and I've never drank tequila again.
Yeah.
But
So
the point is, I was surrounded by a bunch of kids that were my peers that were all doing it. Like,
yeah,
so.
and so I was when I was in my mid 20s, I started searching for the truth,
Mhm.
and I looked into every religion. At this point, I have tried every drug on the planet. Every I was a bartender. Every cocktail.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I was a salesman later on. That I was making way too much money for my age, and I
Mhm.
just had a lot of options to fulfill any material dreams that I might have at this point.
Dude, it's
And
great, isn't it?
yeah, so in every religion, at the end, I would find I've always prayed to God. So I always knew about his existence deep inside of me.
Mhm.
And even though I lived my life, the majority of my life as a non-believer, in critical moments when the shit hits the fan, I would pray to God consciously, and he would save me, and then I would go back to my old ways. So in every religion, and I literally looked into Buddhism,
Mhm.
New Age. Uh, I came from Christian Orthodox. I looked into like every religion, and even the universe and all that stuff, and I found Jesus in every single one.
Mhm.
And um, I tried mushrooms, so it doesn't feel as comfortable. I tried several times, and I combined my answer about my experience is like a shower of love, genuine laughter. Like if
Mhm.
you haven't laughed where the stomach hurts, because people remember those times. Oh, I laughed 18 years ago and my stomach hurts. Like mushrooms will get you there,
Mhm.
and also it kind of removes your ego.
Yes,
It makes
yes.
you so humble. Like everything is love. It's a shower
I
of
th
love.
I think it's that love that you feel combined with the fact, that you start to realize that you are a very, very, very small part
Yeah.
of an infinite universe. And I think that's what humbled me the most coming out of mushrooms was the fact that, like, wow, I'm this tiny, tiny, tiny speck in this wonderful, loving, energy filled universe. But like, talk to me a bit more about the feeling of love that you got, because I certainly have never felt eh, like there was just this huge ball of light for me, and yellowish, goldish light, and just it was extruding love and appreciation and joy, and like it was the weirdest thing to admit that actually exists. What was that like for you?
Well, it was automatic. So it's kind of like I've the other good thing about mushrooms is that it's not addictive. Like weed, alcohol, way more addictive than
Hmm.
mushrooms.
Yeah.
But I think it's
Sometimes I don't like mushrooms. I don't want to, because like for me, sometimes it's very tiring. Like you come out of it and you're just like, wow, I'm exhausted. Like,
when you realize what your dose is, there is a moment of extreme anxiety, and like it goes really intense, and then on the way down is when you're
Hmm.
starting to have the trip. But intense moment of anxiety knowing, but you have to know your dosage, like you said. So just I think the feeling of love is a combination of removing the ego, removing the realizing that your problems don't really exist, that it's only in your head. Just
Hmm.
the clarity you're talking about, the access of the limitless intelligence gives you peace, and being able to really appreciate simple things in life and understand the meaning of life. Because when we are in the world, we don't have time to understand the true meaning of life. We repeat those cliches,
Hmm.
we post these quotes, and we don't really believe in them. And we're like, yeah, we say that those things, but we don't act on it. So it's like a vicious madness.
Hmm.
Like why do I preach this if I don't act on it? So I think mushrooms kind of gives you the ability to really remove that stress and pressure of being on the hamster wheel, and
Yeah.
you're able to see things in a godly perspective. And I have, today's is Good Friday. Jesus
Hmm.
was going through the suffering starting today, and I've always connected with God on my trips. I never had this like hallucinations where I don't know where I am. I had
No, me neither.
clarity,
Mhm,
certainty, wisdom poured into me, and just peace and love. So I cannot connect it with anything negative.
mhm.
I never had like, oh, I'm going crazy. No, and even another experience that I had, which I've only done once in my life, but I recommend it to every human, is um, ayahuasca. Have you tried that?
I have not. It's on my bucket list. It's on my
It's
list of things that I want to do. But it's just not something that like I want to do it properly. Like I want to
yeah,
do the whole thing, and you got to book a whole weekend to go do that. And
it's basically removing lifetime of emotional trauma in
mhm.
48 hours or 24 hours, and it's super safe in my opinion, because you close your eyes and you're in the trip, you have access to whatever you're tripping on, and you open your eyes and everything's normal, like every
Hmm.
other day. So it's so
That's
crazy.
crazy. Yeah, I've never tried. Again, I've read a lot about ayahuasca and DMT. But no, I've never been down that path, and it's definitely on my list of things to do. But again, I'd like to go somewhere in a controlled environment and do it with a shaman and chill
Yeah.
out for a whole weekend and not worry about it. One of the it's like mushrooms. Like when I do mushrooms, I it's got to be on a weekend evening, and I've got to have nothing planned the next day. Like because I might trip for 5 or 6 hours, but then I'm going to want to sleep for the rest of the night. And
and
so.
and clearly I have given my life to Jesus. I love God, and I know of him. I have a relationship with him, because one of my strongest testimonies is the way I met my wife, and I have life I have a near death experience
How
where
did you? I want to know how you met your wife, dude. Come on.
so so I was uh, right after I broke up with the mother of my child.
Hmm.
I went into the worst part of my life. It was a very dark moment. I was just started a new business, going through custody battles,
Hmm.
all the nasty stuff, uh, ruined my credit, my savings disappeared, and
That
just
that that has happened to all of us, mate.
s-
Every single guy in his 40s has been through that. So don't feel bad. We've all lost the savings. We've all lost the credit. We've like it. Just I think it's just a part of the cycle of the evolution of man, really.
yeah, just being in a very self-destructive mode,
Hmm.
and self-sabotage. So I was trying to fulfill my lack of love with artificial love. With I wasn't drinking a lot, but I was smoking a lot of weed,
Hmm.
and sex was my thing. Just exploring. I was in a rebound relationship that was strictly based on attraction, and
You
then
you live in America, right?
yeah, I'm in Chicago.
Okay, so for those of you that don't know, European men in America do not have the same problems attracting women as American men in America do. So, just wanted to put that side note out.
Yeah,
You probably had a
yeah,
lot of fun.
yeah.
Oh my god, I love your accent. Where are you from?
And then yeah, I fake it.
I
It works well.
can
So,
certainly I can dial mine up and down. Yeah,
oh yeah, the British is the best.
yeah.
So then I went on to like really deep exploration, and I went into like 4 dates per week. It was like a clockwork, and I just wanted to uh, sleep with as
That's
many women as I can.
that sounds
And
exhausting.
it is exhausting,
Sounds
and it's
exhausting.
so, like, at the end of that journey, I felt that I am the dirty one. I am the one that has been used. and uh and I was like, I was desperate for God. I found God. I gave my life to Jesus, and I started a life of purity. So for
Mhm,
about over a year and a half, I was pure. No porn, no sex, no women. Just focused on working out, working, and I was praying together with my mentors and friends. I was praying for a woman that would bring me bliss.
mhm.
And I just learned that word bliss and the meaning. I love the meaning of the word bliss. And I was like, I need one woman, not many women, but just one woman that will deliver that bliss for my life. It will be the bliss of my life. And I was praying that every single day, visualizing on that, and just meditating on that. And towards Christmas in 2020, you remember Christmas, 2020 was a rough year
Mhm.
because of
Yeah.
people not being able to touch each other. So
Mhm.
towards Christmas now, we're like 6 months into COVID, and I'm getting these text messages on the 23rd from um, three girls that I was pursuing really strongly, and they were like on the top of my priority list, top of
Mhm.
the food chain, and they were all three of them at the same time were texting me very provocative messages, and I was like, wow, this is like, this is the devil for sure. He always
The
exposes
test.
things. That was just too, it was just too good to be true. and and I'm already making peace with God. I'm basically talking to God, and I'm saying, God, I will break my purity. I will break um my good run here with one of those girls. I am too weak. You made me this weak. I started to look for arguments, like David and Solomon did it. So you love them, you're gonna love me. And I'm going down on my knees and I'm praying, like, if there is woman with the bliss, please make a supernatural sign, punch in your face. I was very skeptical. I need a logical sign that you exist and that you are preparing this woman for me. On the next day, I was already convinced. I'm like, I'm calling one of these girls today, and I'm doing the same thing, like a lazy prayer. Like, if there is a woman with the bliss, you better show me now. Giving ultimatums to God, and I just
Mhm.
hear in my heart, like, I hear this strong, go to church, go to church, go to church. That's what God told me. So I'm going to church, and I'm meeting with a friend of mine, and I was doing 75 hard at the time, and he's
Mm.
like, yeah, I'm watching your videos, very inspiring. I see you eating clean food and stuff like that. So let me introduce
Mhm.
this lady. She's from Texas. She grows her own food, and she's like farmer, and she's got her own animals. So we're talking with this lady for a while, and she's like, yeah, farming, Monsanto sucks, and we're talking about organic food. And she's like, oh, allow me to introduce you to my daughter. Her name is Bliss. And I'm like,
Hmm.
what? So I meet this um, beautiful woman, and I I'm like, all right, touche. Message received. So we just had a normal exchange, and we exchanged Facebook. I think we
Mhm.
became friends on Facebook, and I left the church, and I was like, all right, this is the sign. I will not deviate from my purity. I will stay um, in covenant with you. And it was just, she's in Texas, I'm in Chicago, but the way God set it up, we started talking on daily basis, and
Mhm.
I would go for meeting with Apex, and she's from Houston. She would have a performance in Dallas on the same day. Then the
Mhm.
following month, I would have like a client in Texas, and she would have that uh, another performance there. So we saw each other every month. Eventually, for spring break, she came to Illinois because she still had family here.
Hmm.
And something happened with her. She's a ballet teacher, so
Hmm.
something happened with her company, and she put her resume out there. Three companies from Chicago offered her a job, and she ended up moving here. And we grew in friendship. I remember that I sent her over 200 questions every day, like really deep questions about life. I really wanted to get to know her to make sure she's the one. She really wanted to make sure I am the one.
Hmm.
And this is literally um, prayer come true, a dream come true, something that's way beyond my expectations,
Right.
and definitely God's work. So that's my testimony. Now it's your turn. But yeah,
Well,
clear sign. I didn't
similar
even know.
similar stories. Yeah. Um, I after my ex-wife and I separated, I did enjoy the fruits, as it were. But I was teaching, or I was tapped up to teach a business class, and this is where I really first started to understand. Again, it was around 2020, 2021, somewhere around there. Um, and I was tapped up to teach a business class, and yeah, it would be mid 21, and there was two sides to the class. There was business, and it was the hippie shit. And I'm
Hmm.
like, well, I'm here to teach the business. Like, so, like, what I thought I would specialize in, by the way, as the small business surgeon, was going in and helping businesses organize things, helping them structure things properly, helping them put their marketing plans together, and helping them get their CRM functioning right, and getting their lead flow moving, and getting their sales team making the right calls. And I thought that's what I was going to be doing. And it turns out that the guy that put this course together was more experienced than me. And the entire point of what he's teaching is that you can't fix a business until you fix the entrepreneur that's running it. And I'd never approached it with that mindset before. And in the 3 years I've been consulting, I'd say 80% of the problems are with the person. And that's just a side note. I had no idea. I thought, I like spreadsheets, I like math, I like constants, I like variables that we understand. Like, there's an order to things, and there isn't. Everything begins and ends with the entrepreneur. And I didn't realize this. So I'm taking this course, and I'm like, look, if you're going to teach the course, you got to go through it, make sure you understand it, and do the exercises in it. I'm like, well, I'm just teaching the business bit. So no, 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 you've got to do the whole fucking thing. I'm like, all right, well, whatever, stupid course. And again, I'm not really open to the universe at this point. I'm not really, I've done some mushrooms, I kind of get it, but I'm not diving into it with both feet and like loving it, and not like I am now. you know um I do everything now, the daily gratitude, the like meditation, the mindset, the reading, all of it. So I'm being told, hey, you got to go do this course, and part of this course was write down your ideal partner. Well, I didn't have an ideal partner. I had, a couple of girls that were around, and we would hang out every so often. But I wasn't looking for a partner. I wasn't looking for a relationship. I just was done. Like, I'd hung that shit up. Like, that wasn't going to happen. And so this guy's making me do this fucking thing. I'm like, all right, well, if there was a dream woman, if there was an ideal woman, what would she look like? I'm like, all right, I'll play. And so I wrote this list, and it didn't have anything to do with what she did for a living or any of that. It was all about the attributes that, she's kind. She's got a
Mhm.
nice smile. She's got motherly instincts. She likes to plan. She's got a good business head, like all this kind of stuff. And, I manifested it a few times, and then I just kind of left it alone. And you could not have paid me to go on a date. I was not trying to find a relationship. I was not trying to bring anyone else into my life. I was good where I was at. And 9 months later, after making this list, um, I was at MDM in Dallas, the business meetup there, the Apex event, and several guys in Apex had said to this woman, "Oh, you do this, you need to meet Sam." And she was in TV and film, and I had the media company, and so a lot of people had pushed us together, and we got lunch on the Saturday, and that was it. We just 9 days later, she had a key to my house. It was ridiculous. Like 9 days after meeting this woman. I'd never felt any kind of attraction like it. I'd never felt any kind of pull like it. Well, it turns out through a few conversations and a few dates that she had a list too. I think it was the third time we got together. I'm like, look, I got to tell you this. I've got this list and you're everything on it. So like, we're doing this. And she's like, no way. I got this list too. And you're everything on my list. And it had like, over 6 foot European musician, business owner, like all the stuff that I was on her list. So what are the odds that my ideal woman is walking around with a list that describes me? She could have had a list that described you. Or like,
well, you kind of describe me with your description.
Well, yeah, but she could have had a list that some guy that races horses or whatever. But no, my ideal woman. And so if I'd have known who she was at the time, I would never have even taken lunch with her. She's got this resume. I put her website there in the private chat so you can look at it. But she's got a resume as just the most impressive, and I would never even talked to her. Had I known who she was or what she'd done. And now I've got this world-class fucking partner. I'm sure we'll be married at some point soon. But it's wonderful, dude. And she just came out of fucking writing stuff down. Like, for all I know, she didn't exist until I wrote her on paper.
Kaczorowski, is she Polish?
She is. She's American. She's first generation. Her parents came here from Poland in the 70s. And she born in New Jersey and raised in Houston, and then went to New York and LA to be a model, an actress, and did really, really well for herself doing that. So yeah,
wow,
yeah, Polish. Honestly, I'll be honest. I dated her for about 6 months before I learned to spell her last name. So
that's awesome, brother.
Yeah, so
glad.
that's that. Just a complete surprise, and really, again, proof that manifesting what you want works. And it's not, I don't think that I don't know, I can't say that I attracted her to me, but when I wrote down the kind of woman I wanted, it made me realize that in order to get that kind of woman, I had to become the kind of man that woman would want.
Absolutely.
So not only did I have to become that man, what it did was it focused me on finding that and nothing else. So I didn't go on dates. I didn't go on Tinder looking. I didn't go any of it. I just focused on making the best version of me possible. And it just came. But if you want a top class woman, you have to act as a top class man, and you have to do everything a top class man does. You have to be in shape, and you have to take care of your business. And you can't attract the type of partner you want unless you become something that's attractive to them first. And I think a lot of people miss that. And that's how manifestation works. It opens the door, right? You would not have got your relationship together with Bliss had you not thought, what kind of woman do I want to attract, and how am I going to attract her? And you stopped with that negative behavior, and you started cleaning your shit up and going to church and taking care of yourself and doing 75 hard and going to the gym. And that's how you attract your dream woman, is to become her dream partner first. But you must live as that partner before she shows up. So that's how manifestation works. It opens the door. You still have to do the work. They don't come by magic. But look at you. You were eating right. You were celibate. You were in church, taking care of business, focusing on yourself, building stuff, and you attracted the woman of your dreams. But you would never have found her if you were pursuing 4 dates a week and seeing how much sausage you could slay.
Right. You're absolutely right. And if there's any takeaway from this conversation, it has to be that as soon as you create that perfect woman in your mind, or if you pray, and I was praying for the same things, kindness, mother instinct, like all these things. And the next question to ask yourself is, who do you have to become so she recognizes you as well.
Hmm.
So I'm
And
so glad that you brought this up, because without transforming into a person who would deserve this type of woman,
hmm
it's not gonna work. We
but
postpone our own destiny.
yes, and I think where we make the mistake there is going out and getting a woman. You go out, I'm going to get a woman. I'm going to go out on the pool tonight. I'm going to go out to the bar. I'm going to meet somebody. I'm going to go get a woman. And you never phrase it as, how do I attract a partner? And once you start trying to answer that question, how do I attract a partner? How do I attract my ideal partner to build a life with? Instead of, how do I get a woman? It's Friday night. I'm going to go out and get a woman. I'm going to get on a dating app and go get a woman. Like, far too many guys approach it with like, I'm going to go get a woman, rather than, if I do this and I do this and I do this consistently, the woman I want is going to come and get me. And I think
Yeah,
that's the real key.
yeah, absolutely. I agree. And I'm also um believer that if we follow the way it's intended to be, like I really followed everything. We really followed everything by the book. We really talked about our belief system, our ideology about life, philosophy about life. We developed very strong friendship. Um, we talked about parenting.
Hmm.
We talked about financial thermostat, about vision, about mission. We covered all those things, and we didn't have sex before we got married, which is, to the world, that's extreme, but it makes total sense. If you're going to choose a business partner right now, and let's
Hmm.
say you're worth billions of dollars, you're not just going to do that quickly. You're gonna ground check. You're gonna try to know, can I really trust this person? Can I really
Yeah.
um, do really test the person for their true intentions? It's your brand, it's your work, your
Hmm.
life work that you're sharing with that person. So people are so careful when they find a business partner, and so reckless when they find a life partner. So uh,
I
I
think we've all been reckless on both of those. I think
yeah,
the reason we're so careful at picking business partners is because we've been burned by shitty partnerships. And when when
same for
when you,
life partners.
exactly, and I think that, yeah, in your teens and your 20s, you're excited to have a hole to go down and a rabbit to go chase. But when you get to your 40s, like I tell Nina, I'm like, if she's done, she leaves, or whatever happens, I say, I'm not doing this shit again. I'm gonna stay by myself, because it's such an endeavor to partner up and to work. So you have to know you're on the same page about stuff, and you have to know that you all can get along and resolve conflict in that. Because the minute you can't, what marriage is saying, I love you, I'll bet you half my shit I'll love you forever. And
Right.
that's a really risky gamble.
Yeah. It's a good way to put it. It's a good way to put it. So it's a interesting way the world works, but I compare it to a 12-course meal. If you
Hmm.
start with bucket of ice cream, which is the easiest part, is to take your clothes off and do it, then you're not gonna have enough appetite for the caviar, for the cold appetizer, for the hot
Hmm.
appetizer, for the soup, for the salad. But if you take small portions of everything, eventually you don't need this large dessert. It's
Hmm.
and it's enjoyable. So that's that's one thing that we learned through mistakes, and business is the same way. I just had a conversation with a young man yesterday who is actually my brother-in-law, and he just decided to quit his job and start the journey of entrepreneurship. And it reminded me a little bit about me 9, 10 years ago when I started. And I
Hmm.
was like, fasten your seatbelt, brother. It's not it's not safe. Okay, prepare
It's
for
not.
war.
It's not. But like my dad, um, And I got to go home at Christmas. It was the first time in 7 years I've been home. And my dad, he was saying how much he envied me for going all in and for doing it and for what I do. And it's not all sunshine and rainbows. Like some months I've got 6 figures in the bank, well into 6 figures, and some months I'm overdrawn. That's just how it works, man. Sometimes people pay on time, sometimes clients don't pay, sometimes things ghost. Like it's just how it works. But his thing was, I had 4 kids. So I took the safe route. I took a
Yeah.
job that I knew would give me a salary and I knew would give me a retirement. He's like, but man, I wish I could do what you've done. And I'm like, but that's the thing. There's no safety net.
No.
But again, my safety net's in my qualifications, dude. Like I came out of oil and gas law and I've got numerous qualifications and certifications now. So like if I had to go and like sign on and get a job, there's no doubt in my mind I would be somewhere in the $200,000 to $300,000 a year range as an employee somewhere. But that's my safety net, and I don't want it. Like I don't want it. I want to do what I'm doing. I want to have impact. I want to help entrepreneurs build, launch, scale, and sell their projects and acquisitions. I want to coach, and which is the weirdest thing because like coach is a dirty word. It's awful. There's so many people rip so many people off. The entire industry is based on how much money can I make off of these fucking idiots. And I ran a company like that. So in the mid to 2015, we started this one and we scaled it very, very quickly. We scaled it to 6 figures a month within 4 months. And it was e-com and it was selling weight loss supplements. And the entire business model was you will never run out of fat, gullible Americans to sell stuff to. And so we would just sell it. And we'd have a customer lifetime value of about $320. And we'd have a customer acquisition cost of about $95 to $100, just depending on where we were buying the leads from. And I didn't do anything for those people. I sold them supplements and I said, good luck. And in 2017, that whole business was taken away from me. I lost it all. I lost the business. I lost another business I used to underwrite the risk of the first business with. Ended up sleeping on a buddy's couch, like done. And I firmly believe it's because I did not approach business from the angle of, all right, these people are paying me money. I need to provide them more value than they're paying me for, and they need to see results. I cannot sell these people hope. I have to sell them results. So what's the difference? The difference is running a business from a focus of impact rather than a focus of revenue. And so now when I relaunched my supplement company, which I'll do probably in the next 6 months, it costs a couple of $100,000 to put one of these together. And so I'm putting a skincare line together right now. We've got that in beta. We're still working out the kinks in the banking and processing systems. We've been working on that for about 3 months, just the kinks. And then once that's stable, I'll go back to supplements again. But the point of a supplement company isn't to sell supplements. The point of a supplement company is to help people to lose whatever weight they want to lose and to gain whatever fitness they want to gain and to make their lives better and to take them step by step on a journey to health and to fitness. That's the point of a supplement company, right? It's to supplement. It's to give you the last little 2 or 3%. It's to give you the nutrients, maybe the thermogenics, maybe a little testosterone, whatever it is you're trying to like do. It's our job to help you do it and to help you achieve success. And now when I build the supplement company, it will have nutrition programs built in that are free. Because, if my customer lifetime value is $320, then I've got $220 in profit to play with. So we can very quickly with AI and everything else generate nutrition programs. And they can have free nutrition programs coming out every week. They can have free body weight workout programs coming out every week. They can have a fitness tracking app that they update every week and a community that they're part of and fitness challenges and weight loss goals and all this stuff to keep them engaged and to deliver results. Because my job starts when they buy the supplements. Like my job starts when you buy a coaching program from me. And before I used to approach it with, they bought it, that's it, next customer. But now when you really think about it, it's not my job to sell you stuff. It's my job to deliver the value that is going to help you change your life. And in delivering that value, you pay me, and you pay me so much less than the value you receive. You're incredibly happy. You do the work and you refer other people. And like that's how to do it. That's how to set it up and structure it, is to lead with that and not make the mistakes I made of you will never run out of fat, gullible Americans, because that, although it's true, is no way to operate a business.
Yeah. The intention is the most important thing.
Mhm.
If we start something with really good intention, it might take 30 years, but it will have good breakthrough. And if we start something with really good intention, really bad intention, it might take 30 years, but it will eventually collapse.
The,
And
the intention behind what I do now is purely to help entrepreneurs avoid the mistakes I made. It's to find me when I was 35 years old and making thousands and thousands of dollars a week. It's to find that guy and step in front of him and say, hey, you think you've had enough to drink? But the problem is that no student is ready to be taught until they're ready. They will not receive a lesson that you're trying to give them. They have to come and ask you for it, and they have to be ready to learn. And so oftentimes I don't catch those guys. Oftentimes they come to me after, and after it's all burned down and after it's all collapsed, and we start from scratch.
yeah,
I'd love to catch them before it collapses. But really pain here is the best teacher, and failure is the best teacher. And so like what my course and what my like products focus on is, how do I take you from where you're at and stop you living in this suck and direct you to your goals? And there's no one size fits all. It's an instruction book for writing out what you want out of life and how to go get it. Like, you know, and like I said earlier, you know, we both part of networking groups where, you know, if you don't have a six-pack, you look down upon. And you know, if you're not making six figures a month, you look down upon. And in reality, like none of us have six packs, and very, very, very few of us are making six-figure months. Like I had a couple of six-figure months last year, and that was it. Yeah, I'd love to do it consistently. It's tricky, it's difficult, and it's difficult to stay up there and keep it going. There's a lot of moving parts involved in putting out six figures a month on the internet. And I'd like some more of those six-figure months this year. They get easier to hit once you've hit them a few times. But don't be fooled, man. And then I'm talking six figures. You're talking, oh wow, he's made 100 grand. No, I sold 100 grand worth of shit. Like I still had to fulfill it. I still have my marketing costs. I still have all this other stuff. So there's a lot of guys very quick out there to trumpet revenue. But most physical e-com products are running between 10 and 15%. So for every 100 grand some guy trumpets about making, he might have put 15 grand in his pocket that month. So there's a lot more to it than what people show you. And one of the things I do is just kind of strip that down, so you've got some expectations, and so you kind of understand the reality of it and just how hard it is. There's far too many people promising millions and millions of dollars for very little work. What I like to do is promise you anything you want if you're prepared to roll up your sleeves, and if you're prepared to figure out what actions you have to take to get what you want. And that's it, dude. You want to be the best piano player in the world, but you don't want to practice piano, then can't help you.
you know, surgeons normally remove something from the body
Mm-hmm.
or add something that's artificial or something that's
Yes.
functional.
Mm-hmm.
What do you remove most often from entrepreneurs?
Doubt, fear, shame. Probably those be the biggest three.
How do you remove shame?
Dude, it's okay. It's okay. Like that is like, you lean on your own personal experiences, and you lean on the experiences that you've been through. And for example, shame about losing a company. Do you know how many entrepreneurs have failed? You know how many, like most companies go under within the first 5 years, 90% of them. So right off the bat, When you walk into a meeting at the Chamber of Commerce and everybody's wearing a suit and there's a parking lot full of leased Mercedes and everybody's paying for drinks on a credit card, 90% of those people have run a business that's failed. 90% of those people have lost a shitload of money and been staring at the bottom of an alcohol bottle going, what the fuck do I do now? Right? When you look at a successful guy in his 40s with a pretty girlfriend on his arm, you see the success and you see the girlfriend, but you don't see the shame and the failure of losing a company. You don't see the shame and the failure of a divorce. You don't see the shame in drinking too much and driving home. Like, how many of us have DUIs that we're hiding? I mean, shit, I don't, but like, it's so fucking common, right? You did it, you've done it, and you're here now. We cannot go backwards. What are you ashamed of? You went through a natural learning process. You learned that that didn't work. It failed. And now you're not doing it again. Where the shame is having a fourth marriage and thinking you're going to get it right on your fifth one. Or where the shame is I failed again. I'm going to the pub. Where the shame is I'm fat and I'm out of shape and I'm not going to do anything about it because who cares? And you can cure all that by letting these people know that it's absolutely normal. Every single one of us that has made it anywhere in life is doing so standing on a foundation of failures. Not only their failures, but also the failures of every person that's taught them. Every single book you read is the culmination of all of somebody's knowledge, of all of their wins, of all of their successes. And every book you read cannot be written unless the guy writing it has failed enough times to understand what's going on. So the shame that comes with failure should be regarded not as shame, but as a fucking scar, as a lesson, as something you're going to carry with you through your entire life, and something that you're going to take and grow from. There is no shame in failing at a business. There is no shame in crawling into the bottom of the bottle and trying to drown your sorrows, because every single one of us that has made it through that understands what it's like to be there. And when you can talk about that openly with entrepreneurs, instead of in a chamber of commerce type environment where everybody's out there, and I hesitate to use the term dick measuring contest on such a nice family friendly podcast, but that's we're all in this room measuring ourselves against each other, and who's got the nicest suit and who's got the fastest car and who's got all this shit that isn't really necessary. It's lovely to have, but 90% of the guys in that room have failed or are going to fail. So you can't be ashamed of the failures you've got. Be proud that you went out there and you tried and you learned the lesson. Like, be proud that you've picked yourself up off the floor and you're getting ready to move forward and go again. Be proud that you fucking survived. And that's how I deal with it. But if you look at the things I teach most is just how to get over the shame and the fear and the hesitation and really go and embrace what it is that you're looking for. And like we talked about earlier, most of us have never planned any further than I just want to be my own boss. I want to work for myself. I want to pay my own bills. And yet when you take an entrepreneur, and I'll pick on painters because that's an easy one. When you take that entrepreneur and they say, well, I'm a painter and I'm struggling. I'm like, right, well, what's your ideal client look like? And they say, I'll take any job. I just want anybody that needs a house painting. I just need to paint. Well, the difference between painting a $200,000 house and a $1 million house is very, very slim. If you're doing a great job at a $200,000 house, you can do a great job at a $1 million house. And if you just thought for a second, well, my average profit on painting a $200,000 house is $1,500. My average profit on painting a $1 million house is $15,000. How many $1 million houses do I need to paint this month to make $90,000 in profit? Oh, I only need to paint 6 houses this month. That same 6 houses at $200,000 a house is bringing you 9 grand in profit. And most guys don't even think their way past that. They don't even think for a minute to dial in their target audience. So they're selling something that is priced so that they can live life. You've got to price your product, right? You've got to price it where you can pay good people to work with you. You can get it fulfilled. You can pay for marketing. You can pay to find new leads, and you can pay for your own time. And so, a simple rule of thumb is to triple the labor rates, right? But when you go out there and you say, well, I'm going to pay this guy $30 an hour, so I'm going to bill him out at $40 an hour, like, you're already losing money. And most of the entrepreneurs that I deal with have not done the math, and they've not looked into what it would take to stop painting $200,000 houses and start painting $1 million houses, or start doing commercial painting where I get to go out on a 6-figure job once a week where I've got a crew of 5 guys. They don't look at it like that. They look at it like, I've got to pay the bills. Who needs a house painted? Let's go. And now you can take that example and you can use it across any profession you can name. Like, look at attorneys. You think attorneys make a lot of money, okay? But like, anybody that needs an attorney, I want to represent anybody. I just need some work coming in. You get the people that need an attorney. Whereas if you go out and you target people, let's say I want to be an attorney for commercial real estate investors. When I go work those deals, I get paid an hourly plus a percentage. And, every deal I put together, I may get $10,000 or $20,000 from really easily. For the same amount of time that I take a client that can't afford to pay me $350 or $400 an hour, they can't afford that. And I'm constantly sending out bills, trying to catch up with them, and they're bouncing their credit card, and I've got to pay my rent. So what do? Even attorneys, they don't think about who's my ideal client and who do I want to work with for this stage of my career. And so when we can take an entrepreneur, we can get inside their heads and we can say, all right, look, everything you've done so far is normal. Don't worry about this failure. Let's look at what the next steps are to move forward. You get them over that hump, and then you sit down, you design with them. What's your ideal self look like? I mean, you mentioned you'd done 75 hard and taking care of yourself and working out, but there was a time in your life where you were a little bit soggy. Same with me. I'm literally in the best shape of my life right now, and I'm still fat. I'm getting there. But like, in order to get where you're going, like, you have to design who you want to become. Otherwise, everything you've been doing is good enough. And good enough is really the enemy of that man that God's designed you to be. And I know now what God designed me to be. And so I spend all day working on becoming that man. And what we do with the entrepreneurs is, and it takes time, dude. It's an evolution. You got to come back to it every 90 days. You got to reimagine, you got to reset, you got to get with them again. But what we do is we help them design where they want to go. And then if you know where you want to go, then we can prioritize the actions that are going to get you there. And we boil it down to 3, maybe 4 things. And we make those things a priority for 90 days. And we do that consistently every day for 90 days. And boom, the problem's solved. And then the next 90 days, we sit down, we figure out, all right, where do you want to go now? What did you get right? What did you get wrong? And you make it up right there on the spot. You prioritize what you want to go work on, and then you set your goals and you go hit those. And in doing it in such small stages and in such small bites and in such achievable little goals, it really is just take one step forward and another step and another step and another step. You cannot do this overnight. It takes about 7 years to become an overnight success. Right? You've got to do it over time. But if we don't get in there and strip you down to your basics and take your failures and allow you to build your foundation based on that, and once you've got your foundation stomped down and you've got some solid ground to stand on, and you know that where you're at's okay, then we can plan, right, where are we going next? And you can take those little steps forward. And that's what I found. Like, mate, it was such a shock to me, because again, I'm thinking I'm coming in here and I'm going to be like, right, this is where your process is wrong. This is where your marketing's broken. This is what you've got this link and that link, and this is where we've got to set this automation up. And I thought that I was going to be fixing the insides of businesses, and I've literally had to relearn so I can fix the insides of people.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I think that until people answer that question for themselves of who do they want to be,
Mm-hmm.
what do they want to do, and what do they want to have, they
Yeah.
don't really know who they are.
Mm-mm.
And that happens with so many entrepreneurs. Even asking what do you sell, it's a tough question sometimes for some people to answer. So how do you fight self-doubt? Let's say the person that you said, all right, you can go paint $1 million houses and make 90 grand a month.
Mm-hmm.
They say to you, well, I am too small. Who would hire? They wouldn't hire me. They hire bigger companies.
Mm-hmm.
Why would they? So how do you remove the doubt from the body?
All right. So everything's a perception, right? So doubt is how you see yourself. And the easiest way to remove that is to get referrals and recommendations from people that you've worked with successfully in the past. Because if I'm a house painter and I can reach out to my last 10 clients, and 5 of them will turn their camera on, flip their phone around and go, hey, what's up, man? This is Sam. I'm here today. I want to tell you a little bit about Velco's painting company, man. The guy came out. He did a cracking job. I've never seen paint like it. It was wonderful. I'd be happy to hire him again, right? What that's done is that's just shown you somebody else's perception of you, right? You will never overcome self-doubt. I have it. I have it every day. I have it now. I have it every day. I've got stuff that I'm pushing out. I've got content that I'm making. Will they like this? Will they listen to it? Will it be impactful? You'll never get over self-doubt. But the best way to deal with it is to look at the people you've worked with and look at the results you've generated for them, and then ask them for feedback and ask them for validation videos. And then what I do is I journal every day. And I have my students do it too. So we have mine's in the kitchen right now. I can't get it. But I have a full journal page every single day. And on that page, I write down a minimum of 5 things I'm grateful for. And I write down a bunch of other stuff. But along with that, I write down at least 5 wins for the day. 5 things that I did that day that were wins. And it could be as simple as I got time to go walk in the park today and pray, and it was a wonderful walk. It could be I closed this contract. It could be I helped this client. Whatever it is, I make sure I've got those wins there. And then when you're having a bad day, then when you're stuck in self-doubt, then when you're wondering, why in the fuck am I doing this? What is going on? I'm wasting my time. I should go get a job. When you're wondering all of that, and you can click over into your phone and you can see a video from a client that says, man, Sam did the best job. We love him. I can't wait to work with him again. Like, all right, that's pretty cool. And then you go in your DMs and you see, oh man, I never comment on your stuff, but I've been following it and I've lost 15 pounds in the last month because I'm doing this thing that you're doing and it's great. That's how you get rid of self-doubt. You get rid of self-doubt by making sure every single day that you're logging the great things that are happening. You're logging your wins. You're logging the things you're thankful for. And then when self-doubt comes, you have an entire arsenal of weapons against it at your disposal. When you write down everything for 30 days, for 60 days, for 90 days, whatever it is, you're in the habit of writing stuff down and you're having a bad day. How powerful is it to have a book right next to your desk that you can flip through and go, all right, I got this done. That was a win. Wow, that was a great day. Oh, I got this done. That was a win. That was a great day. Over and over and over. And you can have all the self-doubt you want, but it's going to have a really difficult time standing up to testimonial videos from happy clients that you've worked with before. And it's going to have an even harder time standing up to 30 days full of wins that you can go back to and read anytime you're feeling down. And I do this consistently. Like, everybody sees me as a small business surgeon and they see the companies I've built and they think that, like, oh man, Sam's fucking crushing it. He's killing it. He's doing great. And in the context of life, I am. And yet at the same time, I still got this crippling self-doubt of, are they going to like it? Are they going to get value from this? Do I really have to post a fucking video every day with no shirt on showing that I'm losing weight? Yes, I do. Do you got to post your wins? Yes. Do you got to post your losses? I got to share that. But that's how to get rid of that nagging self-doubt, that imposter syndrome, when you can look back and go, you know what? I may not be the best painter in the world, but I'm getting better at painting every day. And I got this awesome video here from Velko. I've got a video here from Steve. I've got a video here from Gary. Every single one of these guys, they love me. I can go and paint $1 million house because a wall is a wall. And these guys trust my painting. And so if these guys trust my painting, those guys will trust my painting. And that's really it. It really just boils down to, like, do you believe in yourself? And when you don't, you've got to lean on other people that believe in you, right? And dude, sorry, go on.
You're speaking my language, because I've invested my last 15 years of my life to really study referrals, and that's my magic. I teach businesses and salespeople how to get referrals every single time and endorsement from every single transaction. So I think that this is very powerful what you shared, and we're very aligned in that specific belief.
Well, there's another part of it too, if you'd like. Like the second part of this is to film what you're doing and to talk about it on film and to post it out into the world. Your reality, and the reason I use engineer your reality, and the reason I put reality engineer on my business cards, because I thought it'd be fun. But the reason you do that is so that people see you painting. People see you preparing drywall. People see you spraying texture. People see you finishing and trimming stuff out. And people see you cleaning up. And people see you on a ladder. And when you're out there every day and people are seeing that, their perception of you shifts from some guy that talks about painting in his newsfeed to, wow, Sam really knows how to paint. You know what? I better call him. I need some stuff done. And all of a sudden now, in your market, you become the authority on painting, and you start attracting clients, and you start attracting clients with more money. And those $1 million homeowners, they see you out there every day. They see you painting. They see you on ladders. They see you cleaning gutters. They see you power washing. They're like, wow, this guy leaves places better than he found them. I trust this guy with my house. I follow him on the internet. He's a good guy. He's got loads of positive feedback. And boom, all that self-doubt is gone because you have taken the time. Anybody can paint a house, but you're the guy filming it saying, I paint houses and this is how I do it. And this is how good I am. And you are presenting yourselves as the authority on your specialist subject over and over and over in the minds of these people. And you attract the clients that you're looking for. And so that's how we handle self-doubt. That's the second part of it, is not only having you look at your own reviews and realize that, hey, I'm pretty good at this. Like, we go a step further and we turn you into the authority on the subject. And then you realize that whilst everybody knows how to paint a house, nobody knows a thing about painting. You know,
Yeah.
like, how hard can it be? Well, actually, let me show you. It's pretty tough.
Good point. Can you imagine that you have access to the DeLorean and you can go back to any point of your life? You've seen Back to the Future, right?
Yeah.
You can go to any point of your life and you have the opportunity now to either edit a certain moment of your life and change the consequences, or observe one more time. What moment would you go to and what would you do?
Dude, I wouldn't edit anything, for one. You know, I've made some great decisions. I've made some terrible decisions. But the consequences of the decisions I've made have turned me into the person I am today. They put me on the path, and every decision and every consequence shifted the path and shifted the direction. And it's made me what I am. You know, would I have chosen to be an alcoholic again? No. But if I hadn't been an alcoholic and beaten it, could I help other men? Well, no. So wouldn't change that. Would I change the fact that I'm divorced? Well, that kind of sucked, and I lost a load of money and a lot of respect. But no, I wouldn't change it. We're both much happier. I'm with my ideal partner. Like, life's fucking amazing. So to go back and to say what would I change? Really nothing. Like
What
the
would you
mistakes.
observe?
That's the next thing. What would I observe? Well, that's different. I'd observe dinner with my grandparents. I'd
Mm.
go back and I'd spend time with people that were gone. I would go and get in my DeLorean and go play a show again with my one of my friends that was killed. Like, there's so many things I'd go and observe, and yet nothing I would change. But it would be, I mean, you always have this longing to have, one last conversation with a loved one.
Yeah.
And I would take my time machine and I would scoop up all those people that I loved that had died, and I would go and we'd just have one big dinner and one big conversation, and maybe play a show at the end of it with the musician friends that I've lost. And like, I'd do that stuff, man. I'm not clinging to any mistakes I've made in my past. The past is past, dude. It's done. And every single action I've taken is responsible for getting me where I am today. And today I'm in a very good place, Velko. I'm very content with life. I'm grateful for all the things I've got, grateful for all the amazing friends, all the amazing people in my life. I'm grateful for all the money I've made and all the money I have. And yet I am excited to go out and do more, to go out and make more money, to go out and have more impact. And I think that clinging to mistakes that I've made in the past and saying I wished I'd never done that, well, no, I don't. I did it. And I learned from it and I grew from it. And that mess that I made, that's become the lesson plan. That's become the message for teaching what not to do. And so, yeah, my time machine, I would spend all my plutonium just going back and scooping up the people that I loved that had died. And I would go and spend time with each and every one of them, with my grandparents, with my friends that I've lost, and with people that have just been gone too soon from my life. That's what I'd do with it. We'd have a really great time, and then I'd put the keys away and I'd come back, and that'd be that.
What's your favorite book of all time?
Oh, I'm not allowed to say green eggs and ham, am I?
It's up to you.
Man, that's such a loaded question because I've read so many amazing books. Like,
Which one comes to mind besides green eggs and ham?
every time I'm asked, it's always The Richest Man in Babylon. Always.
Mm.
Always.
Because easy read.
Very easy read, very short read. I've given away more copies of that book than I can even count. The other one is The Science of Getting Rich, which is, again, it was written in the early 1900s.
I love this one.
Those are the two. But like,
that's
dude,
even easier read.
It is. Dude, I've just read hundreds and hundreds of books. There's so many great books. Like, you put me on the spot and say, what's the best book? There isn't one. They're all, everything is. But like, if you forced me, the two, and maybe Think and Grow Rich squeezes in there too. Maybe there's three. But the most influential books on my life that I have read are the Richest Man in Babylon, The Science of Getting Rich, and then Think and Grow Rich. Those are probably the three. And I know they're a little cliched. I know they get like bashed, like they get pushed around a lot on podcasts, and then some people think, well, I'm going to be fancy and say a book that nobody's ever heard of. But really, most of the fundamentals of what we know, and most of the business and mindset stuff, it's all boils down to about 20 books written over the first 20 to 30 years of the 20th century. Like, everybody's just reading those, rereading them, writing their own take on those particular systems, but there's nothing new out there. And that's why I like those baseline books, because what Think and Grow Rich was sourced and written in the 1920s. The Richest Man in Babylon, I think, came out in 1926, based on 5,000-year-old tablet transcriptions that they'd done from the discovery of the Babylon site that they were excavating. And then The Science of Getting Rich was written in 1911. And so they're all relevant today. And if you follow anybody who's anybody in the personal development and business and coaching space, they're all preaching things that are out of the root system of these books. Now, they may have grown to different plants and different trees, and people have a different take on it. But when you dig deep enough, everything that we are studying in this modern small business mindset kind of stage is based around books that were written 100 plus years ago.
I agree. I've read all three of them. And actually, The Science of Getting Rich, I must have read it maybe 100 times.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I
read
love
it
that book.
probably once a month. I read that book
Hmm.
to remind myself. And what's your favorite movie?
That's a good one. Like, again, how do you have a favorite movie? I love Shawshank Redemption, as I'm sure everybody does. But I also love Independence Day with Will Smith punching the alien in the face and
Are you
saying,
gonna
"Welcome to
say
Earth."
are you gonna say that the foundation of all great movies is all the movies based in the early 90s?
No,
Movies in the 90s?
no, no. You just like, this is my generation, dude. I've watched countless old movies. Yeah, and like it's funny when you watch a movie from the 80s, like when you were there in the 80s, that was what life looked like. And
Mhm.
now it looks like it's foreign. Well, that's an old fashioned. You watch Ghostbusters and look how old everything is, and nobody's
In the
got cell
cars?
phones. Yeah. And so no, for me, I don't really have like I say the Blues Brothers. That's got to be
Mm.
up there, one of the
You know,
favorites. They
as
don't do car chases like that anymore, you know?
yeah, as a kid, I was obsessed with this, and you're probably more familiar. There was a show, The Highlander, with
Oh, yeah, I'm
with
very familiar with that. They
Christophe
can.
Lambert,
Mhm, mhm.
and it was about Scottish, like
Yeah,
and I was so obsessed with it. To me, this was like wow.
yeah.
And
Mhm.
a few years ago, I downloaded it from the torrents, and and I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna watch the Highlander." And on the
Mhm.
first episode, the special effects, they just seem so poor. Like
Yeah, but
I was
they
so disappointed with
that was it was Christopher Lambert, dude. I loved
right.
that movie, because I was such a huge Queen fan growing up, and
Yeah,
Queen did the
yeah.
whole
Oh, the
soundtrack to that.
song, the soundtrack
And
was all Queen.
yeah, and, dude, I watched that movie God knows how many times, and,
Well,
the
it was a
line that
TV show. It had episodes, and
yeah, yeah, but the TV show was spun from the movie.
right.
So, like,
It
the
was a 3 sequel movie, right?
yes, yeah, part 1, 2, yeah. But like the first one obviously was the best for me, and I used to have a guy work for me called his last name was Ramirez, and so Ramirez is one of the characters, and Kurgan
Yeah.
says, Ramirez, I took his head and then I raped his woman, and it was Highlander's woman. So that was a standout lineup. But Sean Connery played such an awesome
Yes.
part in that movie
Yeah.
too. He was this camp, almost semi-gay Spanish guy, and it was such a great movie. I'd forgotten
What was
about
the
it.
character's name? You remember? Christophe Lambert's character.
No, I don't remember, because he had all them different names that they made up. Do you remember the signature part where they figured out he'd been alive for like 400 years,
Yeah.
and he had lived under all those identities? So I can't remember what his name was, uh, unfortunately.
I was,
Um,
I started thinking on that day, what would it feel like to live 400 years?
well,
I'm looking at the name.
it would feel a lot like this, because all that exists really, Velko, is right now, and so it
Connor
would just
Connor
Connor
McClure. Connor
McLeod.
McLeod.
McLeod, that was it. It would just feel like this, mate. It's just one long continuous now. Do you have really good memories of what happened in your 20s? No, you've got some glimpses. And so if you live to 120, you would only have glimpses of what was going on when you were 80. But you'd still live now. You'd
He
just
would,
be like this. Just you'd get more compound interest on your investments.
yeah. He would fall in love with different women and just outlive them, and then live
Yeah.
live in the modern world with his sword.
I don't know, man. I think that would be kind of fun. And Yeah, it would be kind of strange. What's your cutoff date for women? You know, if you're perpetually 40 and you fall in love with one and she turns 80, like I don't know, when do you get rid of her? Like 55, 60? What are
Yeah.
you gonna kick her out for? That's a question you never thought you'd come across, but now
Yeah.
because you're 40 years old and she lives to 90, like are you going to want to be getting up next to that every day? I don't know.
You where were you born in England?
Tiny little town called Malton, population of about 5,000. So it's in the
Okay.
northeast side of the country. And then
W-
I grew up in a village called Westow, which had about 150 population. So it was a very, very small rural community, farming everywhere. And yeah, it was great.
What's the team there? I'm very familiar
Uh,
with football, soccer.
well, my team is Liverpool. Um, the team around where I live is non-existent. There's no real Premier League team around there. So a lot of us we followed York City when we were kids.
York City?
Yeah,
Okay.
the team. But in high school, you know, everybody follows a Premier League team, and most of the kids then followed Manchester United or Leeds United.
Right.
And so I didn't have a very enjoyable soccer experience at high school being a Liverpool fan. But the last 6 years have been the best time of my life for being a Liverpool fan. Like,
Yeah.
and non-Europeans don't understand the whole soccer thing, but like it was. It was rough watching Manchester United win everything, and then Chelsea win everything, and then now Man City win everything, and it's nice to be able to get a trophy every now and again. And you know, I've no particular ties to the city or anything. You just feel like part of a bigger thing when you follow a club and you're rooting for a club. And yeah, how many Dallas Cowboys fans have ever been to Dallas? And it's the same kind of
Right.
thing.
I
Yeah.
mean, after 30 years of drought, you probably are very happy now.
I was very happy. Yeah, and we're in the running for it again this year, so we'll see. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's probably the best time that I've ever known to have been a Liverpool fan. So I'm very pleased about soccer. Yeah,
I am a Manchester United fan, just so you know.
there's my. You see that?
Oh yeah, I see. I see the bird. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. It's right there. That's Liverpool. So
Well, do you
yeah.
think that the after Klopp leaves this season, you're gonna continue with that? Because everyone is a fan of Klopp. He's just such a
Mm,
passionate coach.
it's going to be difficult to replace Klopp. I wasn't expecting a Liverpool themed podcast today, but you know, I think that they've got enough positivity within the infrastructure, within the coaching and scouting programs, and you know, I know there's a lot of managers we're being touted around with. I think the strongest pick is Xabi Alonso, who
Yeah.
won the Champions League with us back in the day, and is Liverpool through and through. Um, and he's doing such a good job over there in Germany right now, that you've got the Klopp connection with the German, and it would be it's something you could see Klopp almost having a guiding hand in a transition with somebody like Alonso. I don't think they're gonna throw away the table and turn everything over and bring in somebody completely new with new ideas, with new systems and stuff. I think they're very happy with, again, the infrastructure and the foundation they've got for the club. And I would imagine it would be somebody that played the same style of football, that worked with the same kind of scouting systems and setup, and was already somewhat familiar with the way the club is set up and how the players play. So I really enjoy football, and watching it and reading about it and being a fan of it, it some strange way it makes me feel connected to home. It's one of the very few things I can do in Texas that makes me feel English.
Mm.
And I do set aside time. I can't watch games during a week. I could, but my time is just too valuable to fuck off a Wednesday afternoon and go watch football at the pub. Um, but the weekend games, they play Saturday or Sunday mornings. I can give up a Sunday morning. So
Yeah.
you'll find me drinking coffee on the couch watching football at 6 o'clock in the morning. It's because it's got so little to do with the football anymore. It's how I feel, and it makes me feel like I'm a normal English man in the middle of whatever crazy world I've managed to inject myself into in Central Texas. There's nothing normal for a British guy living here, nothing. And so getting to watch football, it's a little bit of home and it's a little bit of comfort. And I don't ever want to give it up. You know, it's something I enjoy. And
That's good.
yeah.
What's a deal breaker for you when it comes down to relationships, whether it's friendship or intimate relationship with your partner?
A deal breaker. Like, this is so easy yet so difficult to explain. I'm not a proctologist, so I don't want to spend my day surrounded by arseholes. And that's it. Like, if you are like, you can just tell, dude, people vibrate, they put off energies. Like, if I have 2 core values. We show up on time and we do what we say we're going to do. And if you're not showing up on time and you're not doing what you say you're going to do, then the rest of it's just out the window. Like, I cut people. It's not that I cut people off, right? I think that's wrong. It's just that I move on from relationships. If I'm not serving them and their relationship's not serving me, I want people to succeed. And yet you got to go build your own table and succeed at that one because you're not a good fit over here. And it's all to do with integrity. And if you do what you say you're going to do, then I'm fine. Like, if you show up on time when you're supposed to be on time, then we're fine. But if you're late, that's okay. If you're late 4 times in a row, I'm probably not going to hang out with you again, you know? And so the deal breakers for me, it's the little lies, it's the little fibs, it's the slipping integrity. And the reason they're deal breakers for me is because that's how I used to live. And I just refuse to live like that anymore. I know now what lack of integrity gets you in life. I know what lying gets you. I know what cheating on your partner gets you. And I just refuse to partake in that. And I won't be around anybody that exhibits those kind of behaviors. We'll have a chat if they keep wanting to do it. You know, like a mate of mine who I love very dearly. We were meeting up. Oh, it was months and months ago now. We don't hang out much anymore. And we had a meetup and he said, "Hey, would you cover for me real quick? I got to run in the parking lot, take care of something." And this married guy runs out in the parking lot, jumps into a truck with a girl. It's gone about 45 minutes. And you know what they did. Like, you know, he comes back, big shit-eating grin on his face. And his wife knows me. His wife trusts me. You want me to cover for that? I know where that leads, pal. I know where it leads. I don't want any part of it. And it's not any one thing that I draw the line at. It's, is this person's integrity questionable? And I know what happens when you hang out with people with questionable integrity. I know what happens when you hang out with people that lie and people that cheat and people that exaggerate and people that aren't, like, it just doesn't work. And so it's a double-edged sword, because part of my mission in life is to help people stop doing those things. But at the same time, I'm not going to tolerate that in my inner circle. Like, my inner circle is I have so little time to give away that I really, really love and cherish hanging out with my friends. And, you know, I get one night a week for a couple of hours because of what I do and how intensely I do it and where I'm trying to get to in life. I schedule time with my friends. And if you're going to abuse that, if you're going to use me to cover for cheating on your wife, if you're going to not do the things you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do them, then that's okay. You can go and do it at your table, but you can't sit at my table, dude. And that's it. And by protecting that, it protects my integrity and it protects everybody else that sits at my table, because one bad apple will spoil the entire bunch. And you got to move on. You cannot keep those kind of people around. You have to pray for them. And you have to hope that they encounter something that is so painful that it causes them to change, because until the pain of what they're doing is greater than the pain of changing, they'll keep doing the things they're doing. And you just can't allow that to be in your circle when it's destructive behavior.
Yeah, that's so wise. One of my mentors, I have a billionaire mentor that actually had this three different stages of hiring people. And the first stage, like the managers would do the first interview. Obviously, all the qualifiers are met, all the conditions are met. There's a second interview that they pass, and on the third interview, he's the owner of the company. He would take them to a trip to Vegas and set them up with temptations. And if they fail that test, then they're not getting hired, which
That
is
makes, yeah.
which is wise, because he's not he's not doing it. You know what I mean? But if he allows you to do it and you take advantage of that,
It's
uh,
it's
then
so
I'm
funny you
sorry,
bring that
we
up.
can't work together. You're married. You just cheated on your wife, and
Mhm.
what you set me up. Yeah, but I didn't do it. I wasn't hanging out with another one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And
So
like
that
it,
was his test. He says, "I don't care about the qualifiers or the skill set, or, but if a man cheats on his wife, then we're not meant to be partners."
yeah, and I've done that, and it didn't work too well for me. It had some very negative connotations, and it led to a very distressing and disturbing period of my life. And so, the funny thing is, like we talked about earlier, when you live the bachelor life, you've got a bunch of different phone numbers in your phone. And yet the minute I met Nina, like, that was over. It was like flicking a switch, because I know that if I want this level of relationship with this level of woman, then I have to be in absolute integrity. And there's no room for error. There's no, like, I don't want any other woman in my life, and it just, if you'll cheat on your wife, you'll cheat on pretty much anything.
Yeah,
And that I mean, that's without the psychological reasons for cheating and all that other stuff. That there are reasons that people push in directions they push. But the Vegas test that's a great one, because I've taken people to Vegas for work, for conferences, for shooting video, for all kinds of stuff. And when you've got trust in somebody, and when you're working with them, and when they're in a supervisory role, and like, you come down at 7 o'clock to meet for dinner, and they can't stand up. I'm like, but we've been in Vegas 3 hours. What the fuck are you doing? And it's a very, very quick test of
yeah,
when somebody's off the chain, when somebody thinks nobody's looking, when somebody's like, I'm out, I'm away from the wife, I'm away from the house, I can do whatever the fuck I want, and they immediately go start hammering drinks and getting messed up, and then going out and chasing girls, and you're just like, all right, now I see. So it was never something I designed, but I completely understand your mentor's perspective, because when I've taken people to Vegas for work, I've seen a whole lot of them switch
yeah.
up completely and just become, I'm off the leash, I'm gonna do what I want, and boom. Like, I'm like, well, I guess we're shooting this man down then, and off we go.
It's the perfect spot that if you allow them the freedom, if you say, "Hey guys, like, there's no expectations for the first couple days, just
Hmm.
do whatever you want," but to still have the ability to observe, then all the bad habits are coming out. All of
Hmm.
them. It's just
Hmm.
the best place for temptation, and just to watch how low they can get. And then even some people forget why they're there. Some people
Right.
forget that they're trying to get this opportunity or whatever it is. So many people that go on conferences in Vegas, like,
That's
go,
kind of the culture, though, of the
right.
conference side of things, is like, I can remember one conference in 2016, and I can't remember if it's Vegas or New York, but we were all at the hotel checking in, and there was a team that I worked with in Oregon, and they were at the check-in desk at the same time as us. Hey guys, what's big hugs going around, everything, and then immediately beers were broken out of a gym bag, They broke out beers, and we shotgunned beers in the lobby. Literally, like stabbed the can, shotgun the beers in the lobby of this fucking nice hotel. And that was the culture. That's what we were there to do. We were there to go and get fucked up and do business deals, but mainly go get fucked up. Like, and that was it. You traveled around, you go to these conferences, and yeah, there's enough business done there to make it worth going. And I go to them sober now. And the funny thing is, some of the guys I shotgun beers with are sober too, and they're at the conferences too. But very few of them make it into their 40s, shotgunning beers and running around doing all that stuff. And now we just look at the guys in their 20s and go, God, they're gonna learn. You know, that's what it is. But that's the culture behind a lot of the sales and definitely the marketing and the affiliate marketing conferences. The culture is, how much can we drink, how many drugs can we do, and what celebrity can we hire to come and perform at our concert? And that's pretty much the culture.
Let's talk about sobriety a little bit. I have been, not that I had any issues before, but I have been completely sober for 7 months. And
congratulations, dude. Well done.
yeah, I made that decision just because I realized that even if I do things once in a while, they don't serve me with any benefits. I just wrote down the pros and cons and made a decision to not let anything in my life have even minimal control over my mental state. So that was my motivation. And I don't judge, people that drink or smoke weed or do whatever they choose to do with their life. But you have been sober for years, right? For how many years?
Yeah, it'll be 7 years in June.
7 years.
Yeah.
So for me, it's been 7 months, and I don't think I've ever been more mentally strong in my life. Like, my mental health isn't as at best. What's your motivation to keep going, and what are your benefits and advantages of being sober for 7 years?
Man, that's a good question. I got sober because I had managed to be drunk and crash my company, and then we flew to England for my sister's wedding. And while the money was flying everywhere and losing hundreds of thousands of dollars, I ended up just drinking for 2 weeks straight, which is relatively normal. British wedding is to drink, but not just a couple of drinks, like drunk the whole time. And as we were leaving to come back to America, and I'd separated from my wife at that time, but she had made the trip because she'd been a family member for so long, and it was my sister's wedding, and it was, in my mind, there wasn't any reconciliation there. We slept at separate houses on the trip. It was like she stayed at my sister's, I stayed at my parents. We were separated, but like when we were saying goodbye, it was about 5:15 in the morning. At the time, she was 63. My mother, she stood on her tiptoes to hug me goodbye, and she whispered in my ear. She whispered, "Sort your fucking life out." And to feel that come from your mum, to feel that disappointment, and I got quite angry driving to the airport. I'm like, "There's nothing wrong with my life. It's fucking fine. I'm fine," and just gripping the steering wheel. So I get on the airplane, and we're headed back to Texas, and I order a double Jack and Coke, and it's like, fuck it. I'm sitting in this metal tube for the next 9 hours. I'm going to get drunk. And she comes with the Jack and the Coke, and I still see it. She had 2 little bottles with her. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to have the Coke. And it's about 10:30 in the morning. I said, you know what? Just make it a Diet Coke, would you? And that was it. So she fetched me a Diet Coke, and well, I got back to Texas, and it was late, and I got back to my little house that I was renting, which was just a shitty little 1-bedroom apartment thing in the back of somebody else's, nice house. And it was a separate building, whatever, but it was just a shitty little house. And I looked around, and there was no alcohol. I said, well, fuck it. I've been up for however many hours traveling. I'll just skip that, and I'll go to bed. And so I woke up the next day, and for the first time in longer than I could remember, I wasn't hungover.
Mm.
And there was so much stress with the company and with how I was living and everything else that I was getting through a bottle every couple of days, and I was going to the bar every day. So there was a lot of drinking. And so to wake up without a hangover was like, wow, that's all right. Well, you know what? I didn't have a drink yesterday. Maybe I just won't have a drink today. And that is what started it. That was the attitude I took. It wasn't, I'm never going to drink again, fuck alcohol. It was like, you know what? I wonder if I can make it to the end of the day without having a drink. And I did. And I'd like to say it got easier and easier and easier, but it didn't. It actually got harder because then I started withdrawing from alcohol.
Mm.
And that was just awful. I wouldn't wish that on anybody. But one of the main motivators for getting sober, not only was my mom really disappointed in me, it was that a few months prior, so this was the June, in the February, I had watched a very close friend, his partner, and they'd been together for about 10 years. And the last few years of her life, she had had an uncontrollable drinking problem to where she would steal money out of his wallet. He would hide stuff in the apartment so she couldn't find it. And he would hide her keys, and she would get alcohol. And I watched this girl who was a few years older than me in our friend group, a regular at the bar, a regular at the tables. And I watched her die from alcohol poisoning,
Wow.
being an alcoholic. I was one of the last guys to be around her. I went to my buddy's apartment and I helped to bathe her with rags and I helped to turn her over. And I remember the yellow body and the sores. And I remember the moans she made and the moans of pain and discomfort and the fucking look in her eyes and the just, no. Mm-mm. I don't really want to go back there, mate. I don't really want to talk about that. But that was it. That was, yeah, you watched that happen. And I couldn't imagine saying, I'm never going to drink again. And so I said, you know what? I'm just not going to have a drink today. And going through those withdrawals was probably the worst part of it. And then one day, couldn't have been more than 10 days. And I got this little tracking app and it would give you a chip for a day. And then you get a chip for 3 days and you get a little chip for a week and then a chip for 10 days. I'm like, wow, there's not a time in my life from being a kid that I remember going 10 days without a drink. Every weekend from 17 years old and onwards, we were on the piss. We were going out. Every night when I was a successful businessman, I was out. Like you cannot find a pool player that can beat me. Like pool and gambling and whiskey were my life because I'd come from drumming. I'd come from being in bars and being in venues and playing concerts and drinking and being John Bonham. And that's what I did. That was my thing. My entire network was in bars. Everybody I knew was playing pool with me or was doing business out the bar. And it was all drink related my entire life. And yet when you look, you see a lot of young people in bars and you see a few middle-aged people in bars, but you don't see many old people in bars.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same with fat people. You see a lot of fat young people. You see a few fat middle-aged people, but you don't see many fat old people. And when you start to realize that most people that have alcohol problems start to die in their 40s, then it puts this sobriety into a different perspective. It says, do you want to keep doing this and be dead in 10 years? Or do you want to stick around and see that 6-year-old boy grow up into a man? And do you want to be there for all of his things? Because everybody says, oh, I'd die for my kids. But where's the guy that will live for his kids? Where's the guy that will fight to be there for him and fight to be sober and fight to give his kids a life? Whereas you're just a selfish dude spending all of his free time in the bar, spending all of his time gambling and drinking and spending all his money, like the fortune I spent on alcohol, dude. Not just for me, for other
Yeah.
people, for having a good time. And sobriety for me comes from reflecting on the life I lived and knowing where that path was going to take me. Knowing that if I continue down that path, my kids won't have a dad. They won't have a dad when I'm alive, and they certainly won't have a dad after I'm dead. Right? And is that the future you want for your kids? What are you doing when you're drinking that you could be sober and doing something else? And when you ask yourself that, then it becomes much easier to quit. Alcohol is a terrible addiction, and it is incredibly difficult to put down.
Yeah.
And the only way I did it was seeing Mel's face and reliving her dying, and seeing my mother's face and reliving the disappointment in her voice, and looking at my kids and knowing that if I continue on this path, I'm not going to make it to see them finish high school. I'm going to be dead. And unfortunately, about a month ago, lost another buddy because he couldn't put the bottle down. And he was 47 years old, and he's a guy I've known 20 years. And last time I saw him was a couple of years ago, and his business had collapsed. And he had left his wife, and he was living on a buddy's couch, and he was at the bottom of the bottle. Exactly where I was in 2017. And the only difference between me and him was that I managed to put it down and he didn't. There were no other differences. The same guy in the bars, shooting pool, entrepreneurs, running businesses, enjoying the fruits of our labor.
Yeah.
And yet the only reason I'm alive and he's dead is because I managed to put it down. And when you watch guys go through that, and you watch people you care about, number one, die from drinking too much. But I lost a friend that I loved incredibly dearly, like a younger sister to me, to a drunk driver crossing the median and killing her and her boyfriend. And when you look at everything that alcohol takes, from the guy that drinks it to the people that he impacts with his drunken behavior,
Yeah.
you just start to realize that, you know what, there's nothing good there that's going to come out of this. And I have reserved the right to drink a glass of champagne if I close a $5 million deal. I'm not going to turn that down. Right? I reserve the right to sit with my dad and my brother-in-law and my brother on Christmas Eve and sip a tiny little bit of whiskey and say Merry Christmas to everybody. I reserve that right. I haven't done it, but maybe one day I will. Maybe one day I will. There's nothing wrong with having a glass of red wine with a meal at night to unwind. There's nothing wrong with that. That's not alcoholic. Where the real damage comes is when you are using this as a crutch to cover for the mistakes and the failures and the feelings that you're feeling. And that's where alcohol gets dangerous. It gets dangerous because you don't know how to make it through life without the comfort and the security that that bottle gives you. And that's where the problems are, mate. Yeah. So
I agree. I think that alcohol has destroyed more relationships and lives than any other drug out there, and so
yeah.
socially
Mm-hmm.
acceptable. What
And it's just that's just how it is. And the way I did it, Velko, every single day, and I still say it today, you know what? I'm not going to have a drink today. That's it.
Still haven't relapsed?
No. Again, I reserve the right to have a drink whenever I want.
Yeah.
And I've had two drinks since I stopped drinking. When I first stopped drinking, I said I'm not going to drink again until I've had something to celebrate. And about 2 years in, I did really well, made a lot of money doing real estate. And I took a vacation. I went to Mexico, and I got there, and I thought, you know what? I'm ready. I can control it. No problem. I'll have a drink. And I drank a glass of red wine with dinner, and it was good. And I was by myself. It was some, all inclusive resort. Sit by myself, watching the sunset go down, eating a steak and drinking a glass of red wine, and it was good. And I went to the bar afterwards, and I ordered a double scotch on the rocks to have with my cigar. And it tasted like poison.
Mm.
And I had about 3 sips out of it. And then I went back to Coke. And so I'd gone to Mexico thinking that, you know what, I might have a drink. It's all right. I can control it. And that night, I was sicker than I could ever remember being. Throwing up, shivering, cold shakes. It was miserable.
Wow.
And my body reacted to the alcohol in such a negative way. I couldn't believe it. And so I thought, well, I'll hang that up again. So that was 2 years. And then that Christmas, I thought, you know what? It's Christmas. I can control it. I'll have a little something to drink. And I did. I sat around with my friends, and we all sat around the table at the bar, and it was Christmas, and we celebrated, and I got a single White Russian. I thought, you know what? This will be all right. I used to like a White Russian back in the day. It's Christmas. It'll be okay. And again, that night, violently sick.
Wow.
Like shaking. Like it was like the shakes and the sweats from the alcohol withdrawals.
Yeah.
It was like going through that, and one drink just. And so since then, I've thought, you know what? I'll save it. Maybe a Christmas Eve with my dad. Maybe a fucking celebration when we close a massive deal. Yeah, I'll save it. But I was home this Christmas for the first time in 14 years, and the opportunity arose to have a whiskey, and I just didn't feel it. I said, you know what? I'm going to hang out. I'll drink with you guys. But I drank tea. Like, I hung out and I drank, and we sat around the fire and we talked and we had a good time, and they drank whiskey and I drank tea, and there was nothing wrong with that. I didn't need it. And so I don't know that I'll ever go down that path again. I just don't know. I've reacted so violently to alcohol the last couple of times I've tried. I haven't touched a sip of it in 5 years, like just because of how I reacted. So,
That's awesome, brother. I celebrate your sobriety. I'm very happy.
Thank you.
And one last question. What do people always get wrong about you?
I'm 6'4", and I'm actually about 225 pounds right now. I'm in the best shape of my life. I love fighting. I spent a lot of time in my 30s in a MMA gym. I love it. I've got tattoos all up and down me. I've got them on my lower arms. I've got sleeves. And people think I'm just some like fucking imposing like monster that's gonna give them a smack, and I'm just not, dude. Do I wear glasses everywhere I go because, again, perception's reality. So if I wear these little glasses, people are like, oh, he's quite tame, he's quite timid. But I tend to be thinking a lot, and I tend to be off in my own little world a lot, solving problems because, again, like you, I'm a problem solver. So I can be somewhere and my mind can be miles away fixing problems, and so I got this resting bitch face, and everybody thinks I'm angry. Everybody thinks I'm out going to go beat them up because I'm this huge angry guy covered in tattoos, and I'm not angry at all. Like, I'm not. There's no, oh, what's wrong? Nothing. Well, what are you thinking about? Well, if you really want to know, like this system and this complex thing. So my face goes blank, and I look like I'm cross, and I'm covered in tattoos, and I'm like, shit. So I started, these are just blue light glasses, and not even a prescription, but I started wearing them wherever I go because people perceive me as a little bit kinder and a little bit gentler. Like, I am 6'4" and covered in tattoos, and like, whoops. Like, I'm really nice and I'm really easygoing and I'm really good to get along with. But like when I'm thinking about stuff and I've got this angry face on. So yeah, the biggest misconception I think people have about me is that they think I'm going to beat them up, and I'm absolutely not. I just,
I can relate to that. I've had guys jump on me like in the past when I was younger. Just when I was spacing out, they will think that I'll be looking at them trying to
hmm
start something.
hmm
So in sales and everything, like I learned that I have to smile so people know that I have good
Yes,
intentions.
yes. That's
So
why I wear. It's literally I'll
I
wear these
smile
glasses, and
a lot.
uh, it's just to make it disarms me a little bit. It makes me look more of an intellectual and less like a fighter. That's, but yeah. So no, I've fought hundreds and hundreds of times in the gym, sparred with God knows how many guys, professional heavyweights, light heavyweights, middleweights, like all of it. And I love it. I love to fight, and yet I've never ever ever. Outside of being a teenager and getting in trouble and shit, I've never been in a fight in the real world. It's much easier to just walk away and just be like, no,
Yeah.
we're not doing it. So, like, the biggest misconception people have about me is that I'm going to beat them up, and I'm absolutely not. I'm not interested in that at all. And that's what the glasses are for.
In closing, we live in a crazy world.
hmm
What's your projection about 2024? The first quarter is over. What do you think is going to happen in the next 9 months?
That's a loaded question, dude.
I
Um,
know.
wow. Uh, yeah, like honestly, I gotta say, I think a lot of shit's about to hit a lot of fans, and I don't like that answer. I don't like saying that out loud. I believe what you say out loud, you give life to, and you can manifest. But when you look at, I mean, let's just take this week in the news. Look at the attack on the bridge. Whether you want to say it was a boat accidentally running into some bridge, or whether you want to say that, hey, that looked a little bit suspicious. Um, I think that there's some very nefarious forces at work within the country and within our government. I think there's an invasion going on right now. I think that the middle class is intentionally being completely disbanded and crippled. I think that the people in charge of this country are not acting in the best interests of its citizens or the people that live here. And I think that there's going to be an absolutely fucking huge mess this year economically. And I'm not really looking forward to it. I'm not trying to tell everybody to go out and hoard silver and ammunition or any of that stuff. But what I will say is you can make the most impact at the local level by being the best person you can be and going around impacting the people around you and helping them, serving them, and helping you to become better. I think we're in for a very, very bumpy 2024. With everything that's coming out about pedophilia in Hollywood, just in the last week, with the Puff Daddy stories
Yeah.
coming out. So you take all of this stuff and you go, wow, I wish it would be nice. But when you pair that with the inflation that's coming, with the immigration problem, and the fact that we're intentionally being filled up with an entirely different workforce, an entirely different labor force. We've got AI now that is extremely prevalent, that's going to be putting jobs out. I really think that society may struggle this year, and we may see a split between people that have things and people that do not have things. And I really think that this could be one of the most tumultuous years in the country's history. And I don't like saying that. I'd love it to just be a normal year, and 2024 be great for everybody. But when you look at the things that have been moving since before COVID started happening, when you look at it from a global scale and the chess pieces that have been moving into place, when you understand that bankers fund both sides of wars, and when you understand that bankers are controlled by the people that own the banks, and when you understand that Hollywood is controlled and all the news that you take in is controlled and all the things on social media that you're allowed to read are controlled, when you understand that the Nazis didn't lose World War II, they just integrated into American and South American societies, and they hung a bunch of guys that were underlings just so they'd have something that looked good in the Nuremberg trials. When you understand that the people running this world are not out for you, they're out for them, and that humans, we are just cattle that are traded and sold and slaughtered. And like when you know that the human trafficking industry is $150 billion a year industry, and everybody at the top levels of Hollywood and everybody at the top levels of banking and everybody at the top levels of intelligence is working towards improving that industry, like, dude, could you imagine if we worked together and spent the money that these guys are stealing on infrastructure, and we spent it on education, and we spent it on teaching every single American to work hard and to become the best possible versions of themselves and to go out and impact the community? Could you imagine what the $120 billion we sent to Ukraine could do in our country? And let me be very clear, we're not sending money to Ukraine. We're filtering money to Ukraine and then sending it back here to the companies that are selling things to Ukraine, that the politicians are sitting on the boards of and they're being a part of. And when you want to talk about this out loud, and when you want to have an intelligent discussion about this, and when you want to say, hold on, let's come together and let's build something better than what's been the societal norm for the last 1,000 years, you can't do it. You can't do it. And I'm very, very worried about where 2024 takes us. I think it's going to be a very interesting year. But I also like the quote from Thomas Jefferson springs to the top of your mind, and that the tree of liberty must be refreshed with the blood of tyrants and patriots. I'm not looking forward to that, to be fair. I don't want a country where the reality we're facing is the one that exists. I don't like it. But what can you do? Like, because big always fucks little. In nature, in humans, in society, the guys with the power take what they want, and there's nothing that you can do about it. And so the only way that I can see to create a better country is to have a culture change and create better individuals. And each individual has to know that they can impact their local community, they can impact local politics, and in impacting local politics and affecting how things are done at the local level with your own schools, your own education board, your own county commission, in impacting those, that's how you create a better country. And I think we're in for a pretty rough 2024. I would love to be proven wrong. I intend to work on creating the best possible version of me and the best possible version of every business owner and entrepreneur that I can come across and that I can help. And I feel as though, in the words of Andy Frisella, that personal excellence is the ultimate rebellion, because you can't pick up guns and go have a revolution because there's nobody to shoot. Everybody's doing, they're all in on it. Like 90% of them, they're doing the same thing. We've got blackmail, we've got control, and the politicians do whatever they are told. And we are not living in a country that is run for the benefit of the people. We are living in a country that is run for the benefit of the people that control the money. And if you can control the money flow in a country, and you can control the country's financial wherewithal and financial ability, like, you can control the country without politicians. You control the flow of the money, you control the country. And that's what's happening when you can control economically what's happening to the middle class. When you can devalue the earning power of the middle class, you can devalue the savings of the middle class. When you can raise the cost of living for the middle class by simply moving interest points on a spreadsheet and saying, you know what, we're not going to loan you that money at 2% anymore. That money's now 8%. Good luck. Right? You know what? You're not going to fill up your car for $2 a gallon anymore. It's $5 now. And not only is it $5 to fill your car, instead of 50 cents for a banana, let's put bananas at $2 now. And you know what? Let's go ahead and put milk at $5 too. Good luck. Let's see you get out of that one. And so the people that control the economics of this country control whether or not the middle class, which is the predominant class, survives. And it looks very much as though things are being done intentionally by the people that own us in order to eradicate the middle class, to take away home ownership, to devalue the amount of income that we make. Do you know now, to live an average, comfortable life in America, you have to have a household income of over $200,000, whereas 4 years ago, that number was about 120 grand? Where are you making up 80 grand in 4 years, Velko? Where's it coming from? You're not. Your mortgage payment's higher, your car payment's higher, your petrol payment's higher, your insurance payments are higher, your grocery bills are higher. Every single bill you have is higher than it was in 2020. Every single one. And I think that we are right in the middle of a systemic destruction of the American middle class. And I think it's going to spell huge problems this year. I think we're being set up for fights in the street between migrants and American citizens. And I think with the advent of AI and a huge, huge migrant labor force prepared to work for wages that are completely unsustainable for a middle class life, when you start balancing all those things up, I think it's going to be a very, very rough year. And I hate that we've had this conversation and that has been my prognosis. I do not like that one bit. I'm just reading the signs that are in front of us and I don't like it, mate.
Hey,
You asked, fuck, sorry.
it's okay. We agree on a lot of the things, but there's always hope.
Yes. The hope is that we can impact enough people and they go out of their way to exercise and get in good shape. And they go out of their way to build good businesses and make good money by having impact on people. And they go out of their way to build a better local community. And then when this shit does come to the door and start knocking, instead of last time, this time they say, you know what? We're not going to have that around here. Off you go. We've got everything under control. Thank you very much. We don't need you. We're running this show. And that's what it's going to take to correct this. It's going to take a cultural revolution, not a gun violent, nothing like that. Because there's no one to shoot at. And the minute you kill one, the next one pops up. What it needs is a cultural revolution where local communities start taking care of themselves properly and they build from there. That's the only way we'll get out of this.
I see a lot of people switching camps and just seeing the facts. I mean, there's enough facts now that are clear facts that are showing that we've been lied to, and that this past 4 or 5 years have been
Yeah.
a complete shit
It's the-
show. So
It's crimes against humanity, dude.
right.
It is you cannot operate your business anymore. You're not essential. Oh, but Amazon and Walmart and they're all essential. Go buy stuff from them. And you squeeze out the mom and pops. You squeeze out the independents. You squeeze everything out except the big multinationals that you have shares in, that you're a shareholder of. Like
this is not a conspiracy theory
No,
anymore.
it's not.
It's happening.
It's an absolute fact. This is what has happened. It's documented. You can go and read the data. Like all of it's there. The vaccine, the scams that went on with it, the health issues. Dude, I got a buddy, 28 years old, had a heart attack the other day. Like
the first question to ask is, did he get the vaccine? That's really when you hear about somebody's health problems, especially heart related, first question people ask is, did he get the vaccine?
I didn't. And pretty much everybody I knew did. And I lost relationships over it. I lost friendships over it because I was like, I don't need a vaccine for that. I'm not at risk. Like the at risks were the super young and the super old. Like vaccinate them, isolate them, keep the sick people away. Let us guys go out.
The super old and the super sick, the super young, they have such a strong metabolism that.
That's what we were. You're probably right.
Yeah.
But me as a 40-year-old male wasn't at any level of risk that I needed to go take an experimental vaccine. Let you fuck with my genetics? Like, no, I'm good. Like I'm all right. Yeah, and you know what? If the zombie apocalypse happens, then guess what? I guess I turn into a zombie because I didn't take the vaccine. So what? I'll take a chance. You know.
I think that eventually there's enough people now. I think there's a positive wave that the future is in our hands, and I don't think we would allow them. It's just
The-
I don't know what has to happen for things to change. Maybe, like you said, something really big has to happen for people to truly open their eyes and be like,
Mhm.
okay, this now has crossed the line.
But
And
don't forget, mate, that in 1989, there was a huge amount of people in China that wanted a different way of life. And they showed up to protest the government peacefully. And according to communiques from the British embassy that have since been made public, they estimated that around 10,100 people were crushed to death and then mown over by tanks. And then the sludge was just picked up by bulldozers and carried away. And that was Tiananmen Square. And so if you think for a minute that 10,000 of us marching on Washington and protesting is going to make any difference, it won't. Like, big fucks little. And there are some very, very, very big people in charge of the decisions that are going on. And the decisions that are going on are being made to benefit them and not us. We are completely disposable to those guys. That's what
yeah,
we've got to remember. Like, they had no qualms whatsoever mowing down 10,000 college students and turning them into pink mush. And they will not have any issues whatsoever dropping a bomb on a huge group of protesters and getting rid of the problem. And so it's really tougher than we think it's going to be. And I think the only answer is to be the best version of yourself you can be and to positively impact those around you and to try to make that as contagious as possible.
I agree. That's a good, hopeful end to our great
Yes.
conversation. We can talk for hours and hours and hours. So
Dude, we
I'd love-
can't, dude. I've got a meeting at 1. I'm gonna have to text him and tell him I'm gonna be late. This was a fun interview. I thought
Well-
we'd be long done by now.
we will meet again. We'll have another one of
Absolutely.
those.
Yeah.
So, in closing, where can people find you? How can people sign up for your services? How can people buy your products?
Yeah, dude.
What's your mission? What's your promise?
Mm.
And we'll end it this way.
My mission, dude, is to impact. So I have the Small Business Surgeon podcast and my accountability group, the clinic. And the mission is to help entrepreneurs learn the systems and processes they need to live their lives through their businesses, which is, it's kind of why we started businesses in the first place. We want that life, but we don't quite understand the systems and the step-by-step processes needed to get to it. So the easiest way to find me is to go to followsam.live. There is a free Facebook group there called the Entrepreneurs Lounge. There's also my paid group called the Clinic. You can go check that out if you want the paid level of stuff. But most of the stuff I teach, I give away for free on my podcast, The Small Business Surgeon. And again, all my links, followsam.live is my link tree. You can get any of my assets from there. And then if you want to know what I really do, just pop over to smallbusinesssurgeon.com. And that's my main website. So, dude, thank you so much for bringing me on here and for letting me chat for the last 2.5 hours, man. It's been great catching up. It's been really awesome hanging out.
Sam, thank you so much. And we will for sure do this again. Make
Definitely.
it a great day. Make it a great weekend. And I'll see you again, brother. Thank you.
You too, my friend. Let's run it back soon. Take care now.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.